Oh, hey, it's Matty J. I've just left home, so this is the quickest one I've gotten into straight away. And a few reasons for that. I'm pumped, I'm ready to go. It's a great day. There was a blackout in my town, or a power outage, rather, last night. And I had a lot of time to sit there in darkness and reflect. Only the light that came in through the moon, through the open windows, and it was sort of, that couple hours before I'd normally get off to bed, so I wasn't quite, lay down at sleep time, and I thought, I could have gone to bed earlier, and obviously, try to get another couple hours of sleep, but, I am one for routine, and when you throw off the routine, after, yesterday I was already a somewhat disjointed day, had a change in the morning pace, you sort of think, all right, well, I don't know. Try to keep things as they are. When do I ever get to sit in darkness and reflect? And so, again, the theme of yesterday, do what's in front of you. That was what was in front of me. So I thought, hey, we'll go with it. We'll make something of this. And so that's what happened. And during that thinking process, it occurred to me, as it has many other times in my life, who do you want to be? And the fantastic thing about that question is that you can be anyone you want to. Again, I think Waldo Emerson, good old Ralphie boy, was saying, a man is what he thinks about all day long. Right? It doesn't have to be a man. I'm sure it applies to women and anyone of any gender and understanding. The human experience is that you are what you think about all day. And, you think, is that really true? I mean, you can't just think about being, a pro athlete and never actually get up and go for a run. You can't sit down and watch sports all day and, no, I'm just thinking about sports. But, the reality of it is that what you think turns into what you do. And if you think, I'm going to sit here and watch some sports, I'm going to sit here and watch some pro athletes, then you turn into someone who sits there and watches a lot of sport. That is what you're thinking about. But if you actually think, I am an athlete, I am going to be a pro sports person, I am going to get up and go for a run, I am going to get up and talk with somebody about my nutrition, I am going to rest, I am going to say no to going to certain social events because they'll throw off my training routine, right? If that's your goal that you've picked and you're constantly thinking about it and you're reading about it and you're doing things about it, it continues to perpetuate that is a part of your identity. And when something becomes a part of your identity, it really filters through all aspects of life. And it's like, again, another personal story of mine. When I quit drinking, when I gave up the booze, it wasn't just, I'm gonna do what I can to not drink, right? It was an identity shift. I don't drink. And it became easy to say. And it starts with, one day of not drinking, right? I mean, it starts with turning down the first opportunity. Your mates ask you to go to the bar, you say no. Or you go there and you have soda water, right? Or if you have, a few bevies in the fridge, give them away. Or pour them down the sink. And that's the start, and it's a good feeling to go to the start, but then the cravings kick in, and we've spoken before about the rule of threes. So you get through 3 days of a habit change, or move towards a 3-week mark, and you're thinking, I'm a different person, and that's what you really have to be focusing on, that you are a different person. And by different, it's different from a different version of yourself previously. There were absolute larrikin versions of Matty J. The bloke loved getting on the town, being on the sauce, and it was an absolute menace. And I didn't want to be that person. And so I said, all right, well, identity shift, change who I am. What are my core values? Well, it's being kind and respectful. Am I that when I'm under the influence of the free spirits? No, probably not. So, well, what's more important to me? Now, does it mean, hey, for your average person, can you not just, have one every once in a while and do it moderately and take it off the edge and, whatever? And yeah, again, if that's you, fantastic. Good that you know that about yourself. But the key to it is, what is your identity? Who do you want to be? You are what you think about all day. And so if your identity shifts to, I'm not someone who drinks. Like, I don't drink. And so, no, not a cold one after work, not a quiet Sunday afternoon, not one before a big presentation to calm the nerves, not once a year at a birthday party, or at Christmas, or any other kind of celebration. I don't drink. And eventually that thought becomes reality. And then the thought changes from, what it is to, perhaps you are disgusted by it. I'm at the stage where I feel if I had a drink, and again, I'm not saying that I dislike people drinking or I hate, what the drink does to certain people. I mean, it is not great, obviously, in some aspects, but it also allows people to think in other ways and be more reflexive in the way that they exist. It has its benefits, no doubt. So I'm not disgusted by the act of drinking, but for me, if I felt like I was to drink, I'd be like, Matt, what are you doing? All those years that you've stacked up now of being able to say you don't drink, and how that now carries weight with your identity and your character and who you are in town, who you are around the place. And again, it's not about trying to hold yourself to a certain social standard so that you can have the clout or whatever to be like, oh yeah, I'm Matty J and my big thing is that I don't drink. No, it is a part of me. It is not the entirety of my identity. It is a part of my identity. And I have many other things to contribute to society. And I like to focus on those. But when we are specifically talking about the aspect of having a drink, that's just not me. And look, that's one example. It can be anything. It can be anything from, lying. I do my absolute best to tell the truth in every interaction that I have, right? That could be your thing. Or it could be, again, athletics, sports, your identity. At every opportunity, I choose to do the thing that would be most beneficial for my healthy lifestyle. Right? I identify as someone who takes the stairs instead of the elevator. I identify as somebody who prioritizes having a healthy, nutritious breakfast that will sustain me through the busy periods of the day, etc., etc. And that becomes a part of your identity. And you continue to focus on it. You continue to read about it. You continue to learn about it. You continue to stand by it. And it just creates this ongoing feedback loop that you get to be who you want to be. You just get to choose to do that. And again, it is as easy as waking up and doing it, but it's not as easy as that because we are complex creatures and we don't really know, what actually makes us. How do we think? I don't know. I don't know how a thought pops into my head. I don't know how a craving comes up. And it's hard sometimes to think, okay, I have a sugar craving, for example, or something. Well, did you recently eat sugar? How long ago? Do you understand the metabolic process? Do you understand, your blood sugar, your glucose levels? How much water have you had to the milliliter? Do you understand how all of that interacts? Do you know if you're stressed? And to what percentage your body is feeling that stress compared to other times when you don't crave the sugar or you crave more sugar. And, finding that exact science, that exact number of it is near impossible, right? So going with the general vibe and the general feel a lot of the time is what done looks like, is what acceptance of the situation is. And more or less, righto, I'm going to be okay with someone who accepts, near enough is good enough. Let not the perfect be the enemy of the good. And who am I going to identify as? Who do I choose to be? So again, identify as someone who chooses to be the person that you want to be. Think about that, meditate on that, pray about it, talk with your mates about it, because the more you put out there into the ether, the more that you focus on, the more it starts to create a momentum, snowball effect, ongoing perpetuation, perpetuity. Eventually it becomes easy. That's all about cultivating an identity, cultivating a part of who you are. You can be anyone that you want. So sometimes it's great to sit in a bit of darkness and have a gander, have a thought about who you are, and then pick, and then do. Think, decide, take action. Be who you want to be. And be someone who has a great day.